Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lollipop and this is the brand new 2023 RAEV Bullet GT. This is an electric fat tire mountain bike that has some insanely cool styling on it with this moped or retro motorcycle look. And on top of that, it has front and rear suspension, goes 28 miles per hour, has a dual battery system for extra range, and is super comfortable. And I've reviewed a lot of fat tire e-bikes on my channel so far, and I honestly gotta say that this is one of my favorite ones so far. So in this video, we're gonna go over all the fun details on this bike, starting off with the unboxing and assembly process, then moving on to the cool features and components, and finishing it off with a test ride where I'll discuss my final thoughts and let you know if this bike is worth the money. But if you do want to check out the bike, I have linked their website down below. They are a bit of a newer company and have a couple other bikes that are less expensive than this one. So if you are looking for something more affordable, definitely check them out. But so far, this bike is awesome. So let's get into the unboxing. Okay, so this is one of the biggest bike boxes I've ever seen in my life. And therefore, I'm going to enlist the help of some partners throughout this bike build. So yeah, this bike box itself weighed about 100 pounds, so definitely a two-person job to bring it inside and take it out. But the bike itself isn't too crazy heavy. Overall, the assembly process was pretty simple. Just had to open a small box of accessories which had these components inside of it. And then you can throw on the front fender, the handlebars, the front wheel, the front headlight, and then just adjust the brakes as necessary. My drivetrain came working properly, so no adjustment was really needed there. So yeah, pretty easy bike build here, and it took me about an hour and a half going slow. Alright, now let's go over all the cool features. I already mentioned this bike costs around $2,200 US currently, so for that money you get an aluminum alloy frame that weighs about 85 pounds, and it can withstand a max payload of 330 pounds. The bike only comes in one size, and it fits riders from 5 foot 2 inches tall to 5 foot 11 inches, and the main reason for that range is because it has this large seat pad area that cannot be moved up or down, so you are limited in terms of height. I'm around 5'7" or 5'8" in height, and I can ride it for sure, but I will note that my knees are pretty bent while pedaling, so it's not the most comfortable, so I'd say this bike is more comfortable while using the throttle. And this is subjective, but I love the frame design of this bike. I think it looks super cool. And a lot of e-bikes try to do this motorcycle style of look, and not all of them turn out that good, but I will say I like this one. And while we're talking about the frame, we got that nice large seat pad I mentioned. This one is definitely very comfortable, and you have a huge area to sit on. You can even add another person if you want to, but they won't really have a great place to put their feet, so that's the only downside. And this up here is for attaching a phone holder. I don't think they've released that yet, but I have seen some images of it, so that should be nice. Okay, moving on to the tech components, I'm going to start right in the middle with the battery, and in this case, the batteries. So this bike comes with the main Samsung 48 volt 20 amp hour battery, but you also have a secondary battery right under that one, and this one is a 48 volt 8 amp hour battery, and this combination makes the bike more powerful for sure. And quick note, you are able to use each battery individually, so you can still reach the top speed on the smaller battery or the bigger battery without both of them combined, but you just have less range. And for charging these batteries, you can actually use the same exact charger. Unfortunately, you only get the one, so you can't charge both batteries at the same time, but you are able to charge them on the bike or take them both off using the included keys, which are different depending on the battery, so you have two separate key pairs. For the motor, we have a rear hub motor back here with 750 watts and a peak of 1000 watts. This one has 75 Newton meters of torque, and overall this combination allows the bike to reach a maximum speed of 28 miles per hour, and it has a claimed range of 43 miles on throttle only, which isn't too bad. The only note I have here is that although the bike has a high top speed, its acceleration is slower than other e-bikes I've tested. It just takes a little longer to get up to the top speed, but besides that, it's pretty nice. For the screen, we have a pretty basic LCD display on the left side here, which you can turn on by holding the middle button. And it definitely works fine for this bike. As you can see, we have the main speed on the right side of the screen, as well as some important information like the odometer and trip info. And you have your pedal assist level on the bottom, which you can increase or decrease with the plus and minus buttons. This bike only has 3 levels of pedal assist available, which isn't that much. Typically we see 5 or 7 levels to give you more speed options, so that's something to note if you do prefer having the more incremental speed changes. And if you don't want to use those pedal assist functions, you also have a throttle on the right side, which is essentially a lever that you hold down, and it works well. And one last thing on the screen, you can actually press and hold the top plus button to turn on the lights. So you can see a light icon pop up in the screen, and you see the very large headlamp turn on, as well as the smaller rear tail light. These lights are definitely bright enough for seeing at nighttime, so I appreciate that feature for sure. And they also just look super cool, so I like that. And now for the mechanical components on the Bullet GT, I'm going to go over the highlights and what you really need to know about each component. So first off, we have a downhill style hydraulic suspension fork in the front. This one has 60 millimeters of travel, so not a whole lot, but it does have a lockout knob for efficiency and flat areas. So overall, I'd say this one is more for looks, but it does add some comfort, which is nice. And then we have an awesome red coil spring rear shock here. This one only has 40 millimeters of travel and is rated for 1,000 pounds. Once again, this is more for looks, but it does actually work and provide a decent amount of comfort that is noticeable, especially when combined with the comfy seat pads, so definitely more comfortable than other e-bikes I've ridden. The brakes are nice as well and do a good job stopping the bike because they are hydraulic disc brakes. These are Nut branded. I haven't really heard of this brand before, but they do work well. And the brake rotors are smaller at 160 millimeters wide for the front and rear, but I haven't had any stopping issues with this bike, so I think that's nice. The wheels and tires are standard for fat tire e-bikes of this size, so it comes with 20-inch diameter rims and 4-inch wide CST BFT tires that have a great amount of traction on them for light trails and rough roads, so nothing to complain about there. And finally, the drivetrain is pretty standard in the fat tire e-bike category, with a large front crankset for maintaining speed and a 7-speed Shimano freewheel in the back for a fair range of gearing options. The derailleur here is a much lower end Shimano tourney derailleur, and I've expressed how much I dislike this in other videos since it's super flimsy, but that's pretty much the only part on this bike I don't like too much, so not bad overall. And lastly, we have a generic Shimano shifter on the handlebar that's pretty common on these types of bikes. But now it's time to take this bike out and show you how it rides. Alright, riding the RAEV Bullet GT. So right off the bat, I gotta talk about how comfortable this bike is because this seat pad is just so plush and nice to sit on. So the bike definitely feels super smooth. Once again, in terms of rider height, you can probably see my knees showing up in the camera here. So I definitely do feel kind of squished and a little cramped. I feel like after some longer miles on this bike, I would start to feel a little uncomfortable in the knees. Kind of want to be sitting more up here if I want to ride the bike with maximum comfort. So this is definitely suited for some shorter riders out there. That being said, like if I just chill here and use the throttle only, it's definitely pretty good. And regarding speed, it looks like pedal assist 1 tops out around 12 miles per hour, and then pedal assist 2 goes up to about 16, and then pedal assist 3 just goes all the way up to, yeah, yeah, so that incremental change isn't that good. Going from 12 to like 16 or 18 all the way to 28 for the third one, like that's whew. But yeah, as you can tell, it does take a little bit to get up to that top speed. I'm at 18, 19, 20, 22. Ran out of room here. But yeah, the suspension does work pretty well, which is very surprising to me. So yeah, this bike definitely excels pretty well on the road. I think if you want to use it for road riding and even rough road riding with potholes and other things like that, it's gonna be just fine. Like it can hop some curves and all that pretty easily. It's not the most comfortable thing. You're not gonna stay planted on the bike if you do stuff like that, but it gets the job done for the most part. I do want to try taking it on some gravel and show you guys how it does on gravel. And this bike definitely handles light trails with these knobbier tires on it. And the suspension is just so good on these light gravel pads. Like I've tested a lot of different fat tire e-bikes and other mountain bikes and stuff on this path here. And this just feels so smooth. It feels just like I'm riding on the road, honestly. So that's very impressive, especially when you're going that fast. Like I'm hitting 25 miles per hour right now on this loose gravel. And we head downhill here, 28 miles per hour. That is just so cool, guys. Whew. It might take a little longer to get up to that top speed than other e-bikes I've tested, but when it is up there, it is up there. And you're just speeding down anything, and it's just the most fun ever. I love this bike a lot. All right, but now it's time for me to talk about value. And although I absolutely love this bike and I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, At the price point of $2,200, I do wish some things were a little bit higher end than they are. I definitely think the derailleur, the shifter, even the freewheel could all be upgraded, those parts in the drivetrain for this price point. But that's pretty much the only complaint I have with this bike, besides also the height issue and not being able to pedal it that well. And if you're planning on using the throttle or pedal assist functions 2 or 3 on the bike most of the time, you won't really notice the lower quality drivetrain as much, so it may not even be a big deal for you. And it's definitely not a deal breaker for me. Overall, I'd say this bike is worth the price point, but if you do want a bike that has very similar styling and is less expensive, check out their Bullet GT 20 amp hour model as well, which basically has the same frame, but just uses 1 less battery and costs $1,800. But if you do decide to spend the extra money and go with the Bullet GT, you'll definitely not be disappointed at all. This is an e-bike I love so far, and I'll keep the comment section below updated in case anything changes regarding that. But that is it for this video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching, liking, and subscribing to the channel. I hope all of you have a good morning today, and as always, remember to keep biking.